Morning manna. I know that Jim recently tried a different attempt, had some problems with the audio, and I found that I had the exact same thing happen. So I'm here at my office, which you might notice is a bit different than where I usually come from. Different for you, different for me. This is the office that I have been using for the last couple months, and I spend a lot of time here. You may not have seen it before, but it is a place that is very familiar to me. It's a place where magic happens, but it's also a place where the agony happens. It's a place where the ecstasy happens, a place of study, of prayer, a place of inspiration and frustration. A place to the untrained eye may look a little bit disorganized. It's piles of papers, lists of to do, things to do, pencils, papers, and wires and keyboards. I'm a guy that's always struggled probably with a bit of ADHD, but for me to sit in this chair at a keyboard in front of books and Bibles, a computer screen for hours at a time is work. For ideas, to wade through the ideas. Are these inspired by God, or is this something rooted in me that I just want to say? These are things that have to be wrestled through. I start with the clean, the borderless potential of white paper and a pencil, and I sit and put down ideas on paper, and try to organize them. But the other thing that's very used in my office here is the wastebasket. For much of my ideas and many of the things that I think or things that won't fit get thrown into the wastebasket. What you are seeing here in Morning Man at the 10-minute devotionals, or even Sunday mornings or Wednesdays, that's just a part of what there is what's going on, the work that's going on. It's really just the tip of the iceberg. It's probably not much different than watching a ballerina or an actor on stage or even an NBA player. What you're seeing is only a small percentage of the work that they have put in hours, months, years, even decades practicing free throws, practicing lines, practicing facial expressions, practicing flexibility, becoming more flexible. Yes, you may have an athlete that's naturally gifted or a ballerina that's naturally coordinated, but nobody makes it to those levels, to the NBA, to the major ballet companies on giftings alone. I say this because too often I hear people talking about ministry, about serving God, and they'll say something like, "Well, I'm no good at it," or "I really don't have much experience. I don't know what I'm doing." Well, that may be true, but try to remember the first time that you picked up a basketball and try to put it through a hoop that was 10 feet in the air. We're doing this with our girls now, and it's awkward, it's hard, it's unnatural. I think of how the disciples must have felt after they had seen Jesus ascend into heaven after 3.5 years of going with him, following him, being his disciples. His last words to them before he ascended to take the seat next to his Father seemed like an impossible instruction. In Matthew 28:18 through 20, Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, "All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. And lo, I am always with you, even to the end of the age." That must have seemed like a pretty impossible task at the time, but probably no less impossible or outlandish than the first instructions that Jesus had given them back when they had first met. Back in Luke 5, when Jesus had stepped into Peter's boat and he was teaching the crowd, and after he was done teaching, he turns to Simon Peter and he says, "Let down your nets into the water." Now that seemed pretty pointless. They had already worked all night and caught nothing. Why would they do it again? Why would they go through all that work? Obviously, that was obviously not going to yield much fruit. But when Jesus told them in Luke 5:5, Simon answered him, saying, "Master, we have toiled all night and caught nothing. Nevertheless, at your word, I will let down the net." As followers of Jesus or disciples of Jesus, we should not think that doing kingdom work will be easy, or that we will be naturally gifted or even supernaturally gifted. Make no mistake, there are gifts of the Spirit, which are wonderful. They're awesome, but it will require work. Listen to what Paul wrote the Galatian church in Galatians 6:9. He says, "And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart." Or to the Corinthian church, what he wrote to the Corinthian church in 1 Corinthians 9:16. "For if I preach the gospel, I have nothing to boast of. For necessity it is laid upon me. Yes, woe is to me if I do not preach the gospel." But in all this, we must remember that work, in a figurative sense, is not a four-letter word. Yes, it is WORK, but it is not in and of itself a curse, because even before sin entered the world, God was working. God was working. Genesis 2 says, "And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all the work which he had done." God worked before sin came into the world. And interestingly enough, he gave work to Adam to do. He invited Adam to participate with him in his work. He had to take care of the animals, to tend to the garden. He had to name the animals. And that's when the world was perfect. But John, excuse me, I got ahead of myself. When Jesus was talking to the Pharisees, the Pharisees were talking about doing work, and Jesus said to them, "My Father has been working until now, and I have been working." So work in itself is not a four-letter word, especially when we are working with Him and under His guidance. Oh, we will get tired. Jesus got tired. His disciples got tired. They had some pretty significant challenges as well. There was obstacles and opposition, there were shipwrecks, but they got to be part of some pretty cool stuff. Even thinking of morning mannas, when we prepare, it takes usually about 2 hours to prepare a 10-minute devotional. Now that might seem like a lot, but even talking with Jim, he says that those 2 hours of his day, of our day, may be the best 2 hours that we have all day. Sometimes I come to the desk and thinking, "Oh, Jesus, what am I gonna say?" But never has he left me high and dry. And thinking back to all my years in ministry and preparing messages and the agony of, "Oh God, what do you want to say now? What word do you have today?" There was never a time that he left me by myself. Now thinking back to manna, not morning mannas, thinking back to manna, there was never a time in the 40 years in the desert when the children of Israel were following God that he did not provide for them. And that provision was a miracle in and of itself. And so it is for us. So it will be for us when we follow him. We'll find ourselves doing things we've never done before, or maybe doing things that we don't may not have felt like doing, but seeing some supernatural things happen. But it will be work. May you have a blessed day. Ciao.